Hi you guys, my name is Isabeau, and if you're on my channel you probably knew that already. And I'm going to be doing a live stream, so just in case you watch this later, if it seems strange halfway through when I start reading comments and things like that, that is why. Also, I'm going to turn this down. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my Patreon journey today, and then I'll probably do that in the first 15 minutes, and then the last 45 minutes I'll just do a Q&A. And if you have any questions about what I've said, or things maybe that I didn't say clearly, I'll answer them then. Or if you just have random questions for me, I can answer those then too. Hi guys. Okay, so if you do ask questions, I promise you I will get to them. Promise. Okay, so if you don't know what Patreon is, it's kind of, I feel like I have the same description for it, so let me try to come up with something new. It's crowdfunding, but a more consistent way of crowdfunding for artists and creators so that they can sustain their projects. If you've heard of Kickstarter or anything like that, it's pretty much that, but not. It's like the love child between YouTube and Kickstarter, and I didn't want to describe it as that because I do that every time. But what I mean is it's a way for patrons of the arts, whatever it is, whether it be music or graphic design, or you really appreciate someone's podcast or the comic book that they're creating or the one acts that they're producing or whatever the case, a patron of the arts can come alongside a creator and offer a certain amount so that every time that creator creates something, whether it be a video or a song or a comic or a portrait, that you would support them at a specific monetary amount. And like over the long haul. So you join when you want to, and then you ditch when you no longer want to or no longer able to. So where should I start? I'm gonna start with this conflict that I have of being of dual career, and I don't think that it's anything new. I know that there's so many of you guys doing this already. I know from my parents, I watched them live this out, struggle with this. There's a lot of beautiful things that come out of something like having multiple or dual careers, but there's also just some natural consequences, some obvious ones like you're spread too thin, or you're tired, or your efforts are divided, and so forth. So I am a teacher. I started not a long time ago compared to other people, but I've been at this for a while. I'm a social studies teacher, but currently I am working a 3/4 position as like a leadership student government teacher. It's new, it's good, it's still odd to me a little bit, but I think I'm liking it more and more. So having this teaching career, it was never, how do I describe it? It was never a backup plan. Like it wasn't, I'm gonna teach until something takes off with music. It is also a really deeply rooted desire to work with youth in this capacity, to be there in their daily lives, to have those conversations, to instruct them and to be taught by them also, to know who they are beyond just their utility as a student. So that is deeply rooted in me. It was not a back burner job. I know a lot of people are like, those who can't do teach, and maybe, but I mean, that was just, teaching just seemed like one really awesome way to get into the daily lives of students and youth and have an opportunity to hear them out and then hopefully grow them and change their minds when needed. And that's just a nice way of saying brainwashing, I guess. Well, you get. So that's deeply rooted in me, along with this desire to make and craft and grow music that is worthwhile to listen to and to share it with more people, whoever's willing to listen. And those both have just been very strong in me for a long time. Even when they were not really identified, or I didn't have the vocabulary for expressing them, where they both come from has always felt very present and real, even since I was little. And we're human, so there's only a certain amount of time and resources that you can give to either one of those. And naturally, I don't know why I said naturally, that's not what I meant to say. I think I just found it very hard to find a way to do music long term and potentially full-time without having other work, and my other work was just very demanding. So I just felt kind of stuck because I tried to do a number of things in order to find a way to do music more often, but then it was just there was not enough time or energy or resources and all that. And to be honest, I probably was working through a lot of feelings about music, feeling selfish, and this is not to diss at all those of you who have been able to pursue your music or your art, your craft, either in college, or that you have just worked your butt off to be able to do music full time like that. It's a hustle, so don't get me wrong, it's absolutely a hustle. I think coming out of the context I did, I was just very aware that, especially the community I came out of, there were just so many obvious needs that could be addressed in such practical ways that when I was thinking of music, I was like, I can address some of these with my music, but there are a handful of them that I can't address purely just by the songs and what the songs can do and create in the spaces they create. It was like, I gotta get in there. I gotta get into the communities, into the neighborhoods, into the families, and advocate and teach and instruct and find resources for people. So that's always been another tension in me. Like, how do you do this and still honor what I feel is like a call to look after my people, my family, my community, all that. And I just didn't know if that could be accomplished purely by me just taking off and being like, I'm gonna pursue my music, peace out. So yeah, that felt very loud. My room just echoed. Moving on, next part of my journey, this idea of monetization, I didn't know how to do it effectively. So I started my YouTube, wasn't really big enough for anything to really be bringing in like a sustainable income. And then it just felt weird at first to monetize some of my videos because I didn't feel like I was big enough, that I just felt like it would be a deterrent, that people listening would be bothered by ads. And at the heart of it, I'm like, I just want people to listen, so screw the ads. So again, I was like back at the beginning, not sure how to make money off of it. Sorry, I wrote down some of these things to make sure I stay on track. Things like gigging, I mean, I was doing that, but I wasn't really playing anywhere that that would provide a whole lot of sustainable income. Especially since I was so small, I mean, the demand for me wasn't very high. I know I spent an investment on an EP, but it just felt like it was a lot of time and money into something that I wasn't really sure what I was wanting to create yet. Like, even just down to an album, the time to do a Kickstarter, to ask everyone to invest in this, I'm like, I didn't feel very confident asking people to invest in that because I felt like I was so in process that to have them commit to this one project, I guess my anxiety was, once the project's done, I think I'm already going to have a different mindset or direction about where I want to go, and then I feel like I completely duped people into paying for this project when it's changed completely. And yeah. So along comes Robert Sudaker, and I don't know if Robert's watching. I actually haven't really kept track of comments just yet because I'm going to go back to them. And Robert Sudaker found me on YouTube, and I don't remember exactly where our conversation started. But he was the first one to say, have you heard of this thing called Patreon? Because I had been kind of bouncing around the ideas of maybe doing a crowdfunding Kickstarter, do something beyond that first EP, gain some momentum so that I had some sort of like way of attracting and keeping listeners and having an opportunity maybe one day to go full-time music and do the touring or do the more consistent projects or albums. And as soon as he described it, I felt like my heart lit up. Not that I can do that really, because it sounded like it solved some of the issues that I had with the other ways of monetizing this music. So just personality-wise, it's incredibly difficult for me to ask people for money. And I'm not the only one. I know that. There's nothing noble about that. But I am aware that I'm very awkward. Beyond just polite, I'm awkward about it. And it was really hard for me to ask people to commit to one project. Because again, I'm jumbling around in my mind. Do I even know what I'm doing? Is it fair to ask people to support me in this way if I don't know what I'm doing yet? Or do they feel like if they can't contribute, do they feel like does that mean that I can't put out this album, or I can't stop, or I can't put out any more music? Because in my mind, I'm like, whether or not people financially support this, I'm gonna keep doing this. So how do I make sure that people feel like they can just join me in my corner if they believe in me and they see potential, and that it also removes any obligation to do it? Like, I don't want to hold music hostage, I guess. So my intent was, I just want to keep sharing either way. And if there are some beautiful souls who feel like it's within their ability to come alongside me, then sweet. And if not, I get it. I wouldn't have been able to be someone's patron when I was in high school, maybe not even in college, because resources were low and priorities were very different. So Robert says you should check out Patreon. I start doing some research and decide this feels good. I feel like I can do this, and I can honestly ask people about it and then feel really comfortable if they are a part of it or not. Yeah, it still felt weird because it's really difficult for me to ask people to rally like that, but it felt better. So I took Robert's advice, moved that way. I don't know if you guys know much about Patreon. I'm not going to tell you all of it because I think you should just go look for yourself. And I'm not being paid by them for this. And they probably they don't need me. I'm not the biggest creator on Patreon. So when you head over there, you will realize that there are other people doing this and who have been doing it for a significantly shorter amount of time, whose numbers are much higher. But it's just been such a game changer for me that I feel compelled to talk about it, to story through it, and then if any of you are creators out there, even if it's not music, I want you to have access to it, because it's created a huge shift for me. And it wasn't around when I was younger. And there were a lot of jobs and there was a lot of work and gritty stuff that I had to commit to and do because things like this didn't exist. And had there been something like this, or had there been people who could have helped me navigate it, man, that would have been such a relief. So yeah, I wish I would have had it. So if you don't know about it and you were looking for something like this, then this is for you. Okay, stay on track, Bo. Stay on track. So one of my biggest concerns was I wanted to maintain, I put in this, like the purity of the product, meaning how do I make sure that what I have to offer is worthwhile? This is jingling and it's bothering me. That's so weird. Do I just move that side of my head? Okay, back. Because I knew I was in process, and I'm like, how do I grow in confidence in this, but also make sure that what I have to offer, that if I were the patron on the other side of this, that I would be satisfied, that I'd be like, this was a worthwhile investment and I believe in it. So a lot of that has meant like just starting honestly. So my Patreon page, I didn't have a ton of merch. I wasn't going on tour. I had an old EP that I wasn't really marketing just because it didn't feel like it was like a current or relevant sound. So it really started off with, I don't have stuff to offer you beyond the music I'm sharing. So I'll share that with you guys and the process and what I'm writing and why I'm writing. But a lot of it was just offering like relationship, and not in a creepy way, but just the conversations, the chats, the getting their feedback. I wrote these things down to keep me on track. Side note, if you're watching this later, this is a live stream. I'm trying to take like the first 15, 20 minutes. Where am I at the time? Ooh, I'm almost at 15. Just to explain my Patreon journey, and then I'll answer all the questions you've asked so far, or any other questions you have after this. So back to what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Can you hear my papers? Ooh, you can tell I'm a teacher because I totally wrote down my notes. Wow, I was talking about maintaining the purity of my product, being the music. Like, how do I make sure that that the music still is life-giving to me, that it is reflective of what I'm wanting to write, but that it's also being received well, that people are wanting to hear it, that there's growth, so it's not just this stagnant, like, yeah, that was great a year ago, but she's just kind of plateaued and nothing more. There's no reason to stick around because it's just the same old, same old. And to be honest, when I first started it, I kind of laughed to myself because I'm like, who's going to come alongside me in this? Because everything that I was offering at that point, you could get for free on not on Patreon, but on YouTube. I mean, the songs I was writing, the covers I was covering, all of that was going up, and I was like, people, if they want it, they could find it. But Patreon caught me by surprise, and more than the financial investment, which I know is an obvious one, and it would be foolish to say that it wasn't the game changer in making it possible for me to maybe one day shift more towards music. But one of the biggest things, and I wrote this down because this is like the biggest part, was the community that I found on YouTube, not on YouTube too, but on Patreon. It was unexpected. It was probably pretty freaking awkward at first. If those of you, the early patrons, if you can remember our chats, we do like live Google chats. Sometimes it was just kind of like, hey, what you doing? How you doing? What are you drinking? I know that Robert one time brought freaking corn nuts to the chat. Robert, if you're watching this later, I loved every moment of it. It was so awkward. It was glorious. And he was just crunching them the whole time. Ah, you are here. Like in my earbuds, I just heard this like, well, I didn't know it was crunching, but I thought maybe one of our computers was acting up a little bit, and then all of a sudden someone identified, like, I think Robert's eating something, and we realized he was eating corn nuts. That's not a patron chat snack, mind you. But the next time he sent us all bags of chips, so at our next patron chat, we all just ate chips that Robert sent us. And I remember mine was maple bacon, and to this day I still buy maple bacon chips, primarily, well, only because I had them during a patron chat. But back to this. The community has been even more than the financial support, which I just realized I probably just lost some financial support because of this. Like, she doesn't need it. But even more than that, because I mean, I'm not gonna go hungry if I don't have the patrons, because I'm still hustling my teacher job. But really the community. So I put on the emotional support, honestly, like I don't know if this is the right term, the physical support through presence. So those of you who are in the area who have showed up for gigs, and some of these gigs, like just recently, there have been some gigs where like literally my patron is the only one I know there. And it's strange because I've never met these people in person typically or usually. And then when I see his or her face, I'm like, hi, like I oddly know a lot about you, and you probably know a lot about me, and you're here. And I'm happy about that. So it's been a real felt support. I put the reminders that I often get on social media, not just on our patron chats, our actual live ones or just the storing ones, but then on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, when all of a sudden I realized that it's really easy to get discouraged after you share something and to overthink it, or just to think fairly about it and be like, that wasn't my best, and kind of bummed that my best was in front of a ton of people, so now they all remember me not at my best. But then I'll get a message or a quick tweet or a text message from someone who's just not just pumping me up for the sake of pumping me up, but really clear reminders of why they got into Patreon with me, or what they got out of it, or how they even just saw me in the midst of it, working through it, and that they were proud of my persistence. It's been, you can ask Tyson, it's been huge. I've really appreciated. It's been challenging at times, but they're questions. So when I've shared song lyrics and asking for feedback, like I'll share different recordings. One's in studio, here's one I did at home. What do you like more? What do you notice in their, the pros and cons of each of them? What does it draw out in you? Their feedback has been sometimes really challenging, and but still really good because of what it does in me, what it challenges me to deal with. And then often they've been the voices too that have helped me. I remember Amanda mentioning I was frustrated about a lyric that someone I was collaborating with really didn't like these lyrics, and I was stuck because I had really meant those lyrics. Like I had wrestled through them and still kept arriving at those lyrics. And I remember Amanda said, I think you should stick with it, or something to that degree, and then messaged me later and said, yep, I feel like you should stick with it. And I stuck with it, and I'm really happy I did, and I mean that song as it is. I am grateful for their inspiration, both in the songs I write, but also just the purpose, the risk. I'm like, they inspire me to go to some of these gigs where I realize I'm kind of a goober. I might not know everyone. Everyone might not like me. I'm like, but I got my patrons. They see something, so I'm gonna continue in it. And then the obvious one, financially, they support me. But you know that one. And then I'm gonna close this up because I said I would say 15, and I've definitely talked for 21 minutes and 32 seconds. Yesterday or last night, I played at the Alberta Street Pub with the Bogues. Excuse me. I'm actually gonna take a sip of my tea. Ew, I just ate the string. And I pumped myself up, and I brought my patron, my Bobo Barina shirt, and I was like, I am going to, I'm gonna promote this. And then halfway through it, I panicked. I didn't, but I'd already started talking about it, so I tried to abbreviate it. And basically what came out was like, I have patron perks in my backpack. Come ask me what's in my backpack. It got real weird. I made it really weird. It was totally my bad. Lesson learned. And afterwards, a couple people, probably just out of, like, they were just curious, like, what's this chick got in her backpack, came up to me and they asked me some questions. It was really good, but it just felt so challenging for me to be able to promote myself. It felt like that, to say, hey, do you want to support me in this way? And I showed him what was in my backpack, and no one, like, became a patron that night. But I remember walking away from it at first feeling really, really, I mean, not embarrassed, but kind of just deflated. Like, that kind of stuff just emotionally drains me. And then I got home and considered the number of people who have come alongside me on this platform and who have stuck with me. And even some of the ones who have had to come and go, who've left and have still stayed in contact, they can't pull it off financially. And even those who have left and then returned, you literally give me courage to keep doing this and growing, and how to ask for people to come alongside me in a way that feels genuine to my heart, to my craft, and to my personality. It doesn't have to look like any other person. I know I can be I can be bolder, indeed, but a lot of you have been a consistent presence to say that, but you can do it your way. Like, there's a way to do it that's characteristically you, Isabeau, and yeah, it's made all the difference. And that's all I have to say so far. So, as I'm holding my jumper, what I did want to say is that those of you who have questions about Patreon, I do have some lessons that I've learned so far, some, I guess you could say, like, hacks. I'm not, by monetary amount, the most successful person on Patreon, but I've been doing it consistently, and it has been a game changer for me. So I feel like I should just at least share what I know. Even if I'm just like a year ahead of you in knowledge, I can share what I know, and maybe you can speed up the process for yourself. But I'm going to do another video for that another time, so that I can really give you some concrete points and not 24 minutes of storing. It's very Hawaiian of me, yeah, to say it's going to be 10 minutes and then it's 25. Okay, really quickly, there are a couple of you who I know had to go, and I want to make sure I could say bye. Hi, Heidi. Hi Heidi, bye Heidi. Heidi's a big one too. Heidi and the patrons made me this shirt. Was it last year? Or was it the year before? Because I was Tina for Halloween from Bob's Burgers. And they got me the raddest shirt. And what meant even more too is the video that they compiled together. So another thank you to you guys. That was really precious to me. Yeah, I'm gonna go through the questions now. And while I'm doing that, also one more thing to Miss Mama Holbrook and John. The last time I did a live stream, I mentioned to you that oh, my camera's gonna fall. Ooh. That life was really weird at that point. That's not the right description. It was really busy. It was homecoming. And I was tired and probably a little spread too thin and a little distracted all over the place. And within a week, I had 2 different people who were in the area drop off chocolate-covered gummy bears. Frickin' chocolate-covered gummy bears to my school. I know how much those cost. Believe me, I get them not very often actually because they cost a lot. They were delicious and I ate them both. Like literally, one of them was delivered to my classroom, ate it all for lunch. Gross, but delicious. And then the other one, the office secretary called me in and I thought I was in trouble and she handed me a bag full of chocolate-covered gummy bears. I ate that in like 2 days. That one I spread out was a lot more. I think it was like a pound. Okay, questions. Kenneth, guess what? What, Kenneth? That was my answer. Caitlin, hi. Oh, Kenneth, I just read the next comment. I'm here. Well, hello. I'm here also. Jeff, hi from Abu Dhabi. What? Good morning, Jeff. What time is it there? What does your breakfast look like? At the hotel, do they try to like cater to their crowd? So is it like an American breakfast or is it local? Hi, Adrian. Hi, Ariel. Caitlin, speaking from a freaking Patreon. Hey, I'm gonna say thanks for thinking of me and do not feel any pressure. And I mean that. That's not marketing. That's I think the reason why I love Patreon is it can really, if you want to be a part of it, you can, obviously, and you can back out at any time. You can put a cap. And then if you want the music and you can't be a patron, most of it, not all, but most of it is just on YouTube. So you can still find it there. Okay, the one with the lion face, I don't know your handle. I don't know if that's part of your name. So I'm just going to say, hey. Hey, lion. Leon. Adrian, Argentina. I am reading a book about Che, an Argentine. I'm only like a third of the way through it, so don't ask me too many questions yet. I'm either going to do the English teacher thing or the SPED teacher thing. Hey, Caitlin, if you have questions about that, I know it's different depending on what state you work in and if you're in public education versus private, but my dad has been in special education for a while. So I should connect you to, and you can ask him questions, and he can answer your questions, and you can inspire him to stay passionate in a job that's really challenging. So mind you, it's really challenging, but very worth it if you can get the right kind of support. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't miss stuff. Sorry, guys. I should have got a better holder for this. Oh, bye, Jeff. Oh, shoot. Jeff, watch this later in your day and you can get this bye. Bye, Jeff. I'm sorry that I missed some of these, you guys, while I was talking. To the lion again, I'm looking at your comment. Thank you. I will continue with that. Do you feel this method for an artist support has required more of your time due to the consistent production needed than you would have usually put forward on your own creative process, or the same? Ooh, good question. So, I haven't really, this is a good question. So Patreon has made it possible for me to set like short-term goals and try to meet them. So instead of, I'm going to compare it to maybe like a Kickstarter where, okay, I have 12 songs I want to bring into the studio and I want to produce an album and then take that album on the road. And I think what I was torn between was, at this point, I can't just take off on the road at any time because I'm teaching, and at that point, full-time teaching throughout the year. So that really narrows it down. And then the obvious costs of studio time. So a lot of times, I mean, that's going to be like in thousands of dollars, depending on who you're working with and what degree of support you're going to be getting on like mixing and mastering. And then having like a cohesive album that right then and there was ready. And even a band, like that was a big thing too. It's like I want pieces to be added into it. And this is my own bias, and this one's a hard one because I know that I could be wrong. But music is very relational to me. And some of the key people that I have just really adored doing music with are not in Oregon. And I think there have been a couple times where people mention like, well, you could hire out musicians. And I'm like, you know, these musicians are amazing. It's nothing to do with their skill. And they probably would do a lot for my name as a musician if I was attached to them, if I could just get them to collaborate with me. But I have this strong desire that when I do work with a band, I really want it to be with people that I'm in, like have these friendships with and relationships with, because music to me has always been, even just culturally, very relational. And because they're not here, it was just really hard to commit to an album with another band, all the costs of that and the time for that. And even just thinking like, if I raised all this money for this one project, I already know that I want to do this for the long haul. And I don't know if I want to commit to this one thing yet until I figured out that sound. So a lot of this has just been me trying to figure out, how do I be a standalone singer-songwriter and be really satisfied with my writing and my playing, so that when I add in the band, that they are complementing and adding to that and building that, instead of me just resting solely upon them to make my sound. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't feel like I answered that question. It's kind of an experiment so far. It's felt much more appropriate in my stage of learning how to share and write consistently, and then even how to, for lack of better terms, market that to build an audience, so that when I do have this album or these several projects and I do hit the road to share them, that there are people wanting to listen to it. Yeah. I'm gonna stop there because I really don't feel like I answered that question, and I'm gonna do a better job of that one, and I'll answer it on Patreon. Back to the questions. If you just joined, I chatted up for the first 25 minutes or so about my Patreon journey so far, and now I'm scrolling back through the questions to make sure I don't miss really good things from you guys. But yeah, that last question I just tried to answer, did a poor job of it, so I'll respond to you in writing. Will you write that question to me on Facebook or on Patreon, and then I'll try to do a more thoughtful response then. I don't even mention merch or iTunes at gigs. I hate asking for money. Yes, Erin. Well, I don't have a ton of merch, and I'm not on iTunes. My older stuff, I decided, like, I was trying to push for it to go on there earlier, and then eventually put it on Bandcamp because it was just easier. I know path of least resistance isn't always the best, but at that point, with my time resource, it felt like what I could do. And then by the time I had the gusto and the courage to do the work necessary to figure out how to get it on more well-known platforms, I didn't feel like it was a current sound for me, and I didn't want it to be on there. Does that make sense? I don't hate it. I just, if that was the only thing out there for people to get to, my fear is that they would maybe see it on YouTube or see it at a live gig, and they'd go to iTunes and be like, who is this girl? She sounds like she's 15. I wish. So yeah, ask anyone who's been to one of those local gigs. It gets awful. Like, in my mind, it's slow motion. Like, that 1 minute when I'm talking, everything's slow motion. My hands, and like, I feel like I'm just this a lot, like Ricky Bobbying it. And then I'll get in my mind, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm talking too much. So then I'll try to just cut short what I'm saying, but then I'll cut it mid-sentence. And then it's painfully awkward, because then people are like, what were you saying? Finish the sentence. But I'm like, I'm gonna shorten it for you, I talk too much. It's awful. The more I think about it, it was actually really frustrating. I got home last night, and you can ask Tyson. He's like, how was it? I'm like, I was weird. And not cute weird where people are like, oh, she's so adorable. No, it was like crickets weird. I wanted to punch myself after every song. That's too harsh. But it's how I felt. But it sounds harsh. And maybe you guys don't know that side of me yet. It's my angry side. Okay, questions. I'm scrolling. Hold on. I'm almost caught up. Okay, Robert, you found me on the live stream. Unapologetically yourself. Yeah. Keep crying. Oh. Sorry, I'm just reading comments, and if they're personal, I'm just reading them to myself so that it doesn't sound like I'm trying to pump myself up in front of you guys. Mama Holbrook, I'll just say thank you. And thank you for the chocolate-covered gummy bears. They were delicious. I even brought them home, and it's funny is I kept them in a different bag so that Tyson couldn't tell, because he tells me jokingly to hide snacks because he's a snacker. His amazing self-discipline, and then if you have a snack out, it's like it's gone. So I kept it in a different bag, and I was on the couch watching something on Netflix, and I could sense that he was walking towards me, eyeing the bag, and then he did his like little, "What are you eating?" I'm like, "I'm just stuff." Not chocolate gummy bears, because I don't want to share. But I ended up sharing like 2 out of like a pound of I was very selfish that day. I felt like I got through homecoming and I deserved my bag of chocolate covered gummy bears. Yes, let's all applaud Robert Sadaker. So I'm reading the comments again, and it says applauds Mr. Sadaker. But really, Robert, thank you for pointing me in the direction of Patreon. I have this memory. You talked to me about it, and I spent like a month planning, trying to figure out like how to set up my page, what kind of incentives I could like honestly give, because at that point I'm like, I could write you a postcard, which I still do. But what was it? Oh, Leo and Kylie came up to visit that next month, and I remember I asked them to try to be a part of the video. That was gonna do like a launch video and everything, and yeah, anyways. I don't know what that meant. I think it was attached to that memory, so I had to share that. Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling. Okay, let's see. I want to be able to do something here. Well, Caitlin, if you do decide, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I know that it's not... Well, all of it's a sacrifice. When you guys support me here, I don't take it lightly. And I was telling Tyson before I came on here, like, one of the struggles with any sort of art or craft is I don't think it's selfish to pursue this. Maybe when I was younger I did. Like, just to do music felt kind of selfish because of the needs I knew existed in my own family, in my community, in the world. But things have grown and changed, and I know that it's not selfish, but I also realize that there are a lot of things to give yourself to, your time, your resources, and yeah, so if this feels like it aligns with that, and you are willing and able, rad, and I hope that it continues to be worthwhile. And if not, I get it, and come find my stuff here on YouTube, and just stick around for the free stuff. John, even though I missed your show last night, I love the video of your rendition of Jillian. Is it Jillian or Gillian? I don't know. Jillian Welch's song about Elvis. So John's talking about at the gig, we did a cover together. So the Bogues and myself, they picked an awesome song. I'm really glad that they opened my eyes to Jillian Welch or Gillian Welch. I could be butchering this. I could be butchering it. But it was the song Elvis Presley Blues. And I didn't play guitar this time, so I'm up there. And it wasn't until we were doing sound check that I realized, what do you do with your hands? So on the fly, in one of my moments of awkwardness, I'm like, hey, why don't you guys all tell us what to do with our hands? And then Austin calls out, you should do a handstand. That was a no. Because you know what, that would have just been a cluster mess. But then one of the suggestions was hands straight up. I took that one. Another one was the teapot, the kettle. And then like jazz hands, which you can't see them down here right now. Bring them up. And then the other one was like the tapping the head and rubbing the belly, which made my hair even frizzier than it was last night. So I just went for it, and it felt super stupid while I was doing it. And looking back at it, it's not super stupid, it just is stupid, but fun. And I'm glad you liked it. And I really like that song. And that artist, oh my gosh, her Revelator song. Good. So good. Let's see. It's curvy. Some people are taking off. If you guys are leaving, thank you so much for, I can't get through all of these in time to do it, but thank you for sticking around and for your questions. And if you get to watch this later, hopefully I answered some of the questions that maybe I didn't get to before you left. Jackie! Hi, Jackie. Side note, Jackie, I finally finished editing my video, and one of my concerns was my YouTube, for a long time, I didn't realize that I could enable it to have longer videos. Remember that comment I texted you about having to get it down to 15 minutes? So I spent a ton of time trying to edit down like an hour and a half worth of content to 15 minutes, and I was struggling, and then realized that I could just switch on certain things onto my account and make it an hour possible. So that'll be up soon now that I figured that out. Okay. Jackie, you asked something else before I move my hand. You're about doing music with people you're close with, praying together. Yeah, I can imagine, because that would be dope. That would be dope. And I don't want to be picky. I have friends, people I'm not related to, people I've met up here recently who are so talented in who they are as people. I would love to collaborate with them. So that's not me saying I will play with no one else but my family and my close friends. That's not the case. At this point, what I'm saying is I don't really have that connectivity with anyone, not just to be known as a musician, but as a person, where that the music just feels like an overflow. And then all that time and investment you spend on honing your craft in your songs and giving and taking feedback, it just, to me, it feels much more possible and rich if it's with people you love, honestly. So would I love to play with some of these musicians who are far more skilled than me, far more experienced? Yes, and I hope that happens more and more. But as far as like the idea of an album, a compilation of all the songs, it just sounds incredibly cool to me that it would be with like your crew, so that you could all sit back and be like, yeah, we meant that. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I mean it. I want my songs to, I want to mean what I say and how I do it, and yeah. Bender the Great, love your song, What I Want. I'm glad you like it. That's one of the ones I panicked last night and didn't play, because right before I started, I'm like, oh, no one's gonna like it. Seems to provide some structure as you choose to explore creating music. Yes, Patreon is definitely, it's just kind of felt like a backbone, or like a blueprint from which I can build on, so I didn't have to know all of it right away. I could grow into it and then find people who believed in me as I was, and then they could grow with me. The harmony with your sister is perfect in that song. I'm glad you think so. You should go tell her. Find her in social networking. She's Kapu Denso Waia'u. I can't remember what her Instagram handle is, but you should let her know. Yuri! Long time no see, man. Did you get my 500 emails? Just kidding. That's creepy. That makes me sound like a stalker. I think it was like one, and it was just saying, hi, we miss you. Come back soon. John, even crickets are adorable. These crickets were just really not adorable and highly or painfully awkward. I don't know. I feel like the way I interpret crickets at a gig is probably worse than what it is, but I guess I just wouldn't want the opposite. I wouldn't want to think that I was able to read the crowd and my intuition was really great, and then find out after that everyone was like, boo! But in my mind, they were like, yeah, we love this. So usually I default on the side of, oh, this is bad. They're not digging it. It would be cool if CD Baby could find a way to work with YouTube and put music on Spotify, iTunes. Either way, your YouTube and live performance are no matter how weird you think they are. Thanks, Jackie. No, that would be really cool. And honestly, some of this I just have to, I need to make time for it. because time is a precious commodity for me, and time where I can actually wrestle with and problem solve some of these things. So usually during the summer, that's when I try to buckle down and do some of it. And like I'll hit a hurdle in the whole iTunes portion or CD Baby, and it is frustrating to myself how quickly some of those hurdles derail me. Because I'll be like, I have so many other things to do, and this freaking hurdle's too high, and I'll be like, I'm gonna pause on this and come back to it next week, and then 3 months pass, and you're like, I didn't do that thing on 5 of my to-do lists because there's just that one step that you weren't really sure how to navigate, or that was frustrating, or demanded you to figure out something that you didn't know how to do. So that is definitely something I need to grow in, for sure. For sure. Okay, let's see. Other questions? Wondering who some of your musical influences are, Jonathan. Oh, Kenneth. One sec. I think I skipped Kenneth's, unless he's joking with me. Hey, Kenneth, what do you go by? Did I skip one of yours? Scrolling. I feel like I should hold my phone so you guys don't get dizzy. Oh, boom, found it. You know, we donate and invest because we believe in you. We want more of your music and your art, and I strive to speak maybe a handful of us, but we gladly give on your team. Thank you. I don't know how else to respond to that. And that's what I want. And not that people who don't join me on Patreon it's not that they don't believe me. I know that. But I want whoever does decide to do that they would feel that it was a meaningful exchange, that they would that they would see promise and an honesty and a value in it, that the exchange felt meaningful to them, and not that I was duping them. I think that's why it's hard for me to sell things, because if I feel like if I really don't feel like they need it, then it's wasting their time, it's wasting my time, and then I don't want to trick them, because I'm like, if they don't really need it and they give me their resources and their time, it's not going to go where it needs to go. So I have this memory of, like, I just sell pateles. Do you guys know what pateles are? I can't remember if it was for like a basketball trip or a church trip, but my dad was taking me around, and we'd always go to Waia'u Heights. So if you're on Maui, at least when I was younger, and then things have changed, but Waia'u Heights, if you had money, you lived up there. We didn't live up there. But that's where we would go to go trick-or-treating and sell stuff for fundraisers. So my dad's taking me to these neighborhoods and dropping me at these houses, and I'm already like painfully shy in front of strangers. It was horrible. And I'd get out, knock on the door, and pretty much would walk back every inquiry. So I'd be like, hi, my name is Bo. I go to Waia'u Intermediate, and I'm trying to go on this basketball trip. Would you like to buy pateles? And then before they could say anything, I'd be like, and if you don't really like them, or if you don't need them, or if you already like bought stuff for your dinner, you don't need them. And then they'd be like, okay, no thank you. And then I'd walk back to the car and be like, Dad, they said they didn't want it. No friggin' duh, Bo, you gave them every out. So bring that to Patreon. If there's ever a point where you don't have the resources to support anymore, or all of a sudden you look at me and you're like, who she is and what she is about, I don't like it, I don't want to support it, you can always discontinue being a patron, and I'll probably cry about it for a day and then be like, okay, it's good, blessings, be at peace. Yeah, that's my piece, and I don't know if that's good or not, but I really want to know. I don't want to dupe anyone, and even if I had thousands upon thousands of patrons, if at the end of the day none of them really valued it and it wasn't meaningful to them, I'd be embarrassed. So yeah, let's go on to the next question so I don't get too long-winded. Hi from Indonesia, or not hi Andre from Indonesia, not hi from Indonesia, I'm dumb. My musical influences, ooh, I'm so bad at this. What I listened to growing up is probably nothing about what I sound like. So in our household, everything from like Gospel to Winds of Worship, these like vineyard CDs that my dad was getting, to Keith Green, to the local setting, so like Hawaiian music from our family, to like local style, like Hawaiian reggae music. I remember I was fascinated with Jennifer Knapp because she was like the first musician, female singer-songwriter with a guitar that I'd heard. It was doing something like that wasn't a rock band, which I love rock bands. I wanted a band. But just something where I was like, hey, I have a guitar. I could do that. Maybe. I sound like freaking Wayne from Wayne's World. You know when Katy Perry was Katie Hudson and she was blonde? I had her CD. Or I would just go to Borders because I couldn't really afford CDs, so I'd go to Borders and I'd listen to the free music samples. Pedro the Lion. I remember Brandon Baniaga showed me who Pedro the Lion was. And then you had like those tooth and nail switchfoot ones. And then a lot of R&B, so Monica, 90s Brandy, anything Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston, a lot of like those boy bands, so everything from your white boy bands like NSYNC to Backstreet Boys and Immature. There were a lot of times from our like really awkward looking tree houses where we were singing lyrics that we had no idea what it meant. And now looking back, I'm not really sure what our neighbors thought of us, but they were blasting the same music, so they were probably like, oh, these kids are cool, and we had no clue that we were saying some of the things we were, which is funny because my dad's a pastor. Little does he know that all the Waia'u kids are like cussing from the treehouse. What else? And others, but more recently, oh gosh, really current. I love Phoebe Bridgers. I don't know how much she influences. I know she influences me. I just don't know particularly how. She and Noah Gunderson, they're coming together as a pair to Portland soon. I love Joseph. I'm trying to think of current shows I've gone to. Penny and Sparrow. I love SZA. But you'll start to notice that maybe I don't sound like any of them. So that is part of my process, just trying to figure out when I hear and I feel and I see and I watch, when it comes into me, how does it actually translate? And what I'm finding is it doesn't necessarily always translate into the artist that I'm listening to, which is good. I know you have to find your own sound, but then I feel kind of chaotic sometimes because I'm hearing it one way, and then when I do it, it becomes something strange, or to be kinder to myself, just different. And most of the time I think I like it. Not always. How do I decide where to perform and who to perform with? Ooh, at this point, I'm getting a little bit more intentional. In the beginning, it was really not anywhere. I mean, you still have to be discerning because, again, time is precious and not every activity or investment is growth and a move forward. But early on, it really was just looking for as many places as possible that made sense to play and kind of get practice playing in front of people and get practice playing in front of different crowds. Like, it's really different to play for like a restaurant, loud bar setting than it is to play in like Alberta Street Pub in that specific venue, it's smaller, which is precious. I love that. But most of the time it's like a listening crowd, which is awesome. It's what you dream of. But when you've been playing in louder bars and restaurants where you're just kind of the background music, all of a sudden when it's quiet, you think something's wrong. Like, have they fallen asleep? Are they quietly judging me and booing me? Do they just hate it? Like, it's really hard to, at least for me, to like intuitively figure that out really quick. But yeah, now I'm a little bit pickier, mostly to preserve my times, to not mistake activity again with growth and progress. So saying yes to everything doesn't mean I'm moving ahead. It might just mean that I'm tiring myself out. And but I'm trying to make sure that when I say yes, it's at places that and with people that it could be mutually beneficial for, so that I feel like I would really compliment them and support them in theirs, and that it would be great to work with them. So, and sometimes I don't even choose the artists, not sometimes, most of the time, if I get invited to be a part of a bill, it's usually because I've established some sort of connection with the organizer. So for example, this last one, I organized it with my friends, the Bogues, and had kind of built a relationship with that venue, so that I could plan something small like that. And then in other instances, I'm trying to play for different listeners, hopefully to be heard, like not wear out my family and friends up here. In that case, I'm really grateful. Like a couple shout outs, Shane Brown. I think he's in Costa Rica with his girlfriend right now. And Dan Cable. The two of them have been really, I'm very grateful for the way that they have, I felt like they've looked out for me in this past, like, even less than a year. Shane opening up opportunities or like throwing gigs my way that they maybe haven't worked out for him time-wise, but that he's been there before and he's got some experience. So that's been awesome and much appreciated. And then he built a connection so I could work with Dan Cable, and then Dan Cable has allowed me to fill in like different opener roles. And being an opener is weird sometimes, because sometimes no one's there yet. But I feel like people have like made space for me, and that means a lot. That means a lot. How long have I been singing? And do I have plans to go on a tour? Yes. When? Not sure, but it's probably going to be like regional and just a few, because I'm not obviously big enough to do like some grand national tour, and with my current schedule as a teacher, I can't just take off at any time. But I am hoping during some of my longer breaks to plan like 1 or 2 types of smaller venues or house shows closer by. And then for the summer, Tyson and I are thinking of finding a way to plan something where like we could partner his work and mine and then build into it along the way, some stops. So stay tuned. I'm really hoping for that. That's just going to require me to have to buckle down and hustle a little bit earlier on to plan that. But if you are nearby or within driving distance, that's practically where I'm going to start, because I'm too small to do anything otherwise. Let me know where you're at and if there's people in your area who would listen to me. Because, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't be creepy. I'm not against singing to one person, but sometimes it can feel a little weird to show up, at a house show or venue and then you just sing to the servers. I'm sure they feel kind of bad for me, which I would feel bad for me too. I've been singing for a long time. Not saying it's been great the whole time, but when I talked about music being very relational, it was just it wasn't just in the past, but still is a really vital component within my family. It's a thread that kind of weaves us all together. So, it's the way we communicate. It's the way we prayed. It's the way we, one second, my battery. Oh my gosh, hand in the screen. It's the way we celebrated. It's the way we mourned. It's the way we expressed what we thought. It's just a big part of it. So whether or not Patreon survives, maybe something happens and Patreon goes poof, or YouTube goes out of style, or gets replaced by something, or I never am able to do this full time or sustain it. Whether or not that's the case, I'm just gonna keep singing. So I feel like it's in my veins, and whether or not I get to do it in a sustained, more full-time capacity with more listeners, well, that's a different thing. But as far as singing, I've been doing it since I was little, and I will keep doing it until I'm old and gray and sound like beep crap. Gonna play some Phoebe Bridgers tomorrow night? Yes. Ben, are you gonna be there at Owl's Den? I'm gonna do Waiting Room. Hopefully, I'm trying to build in a few covers. I think I can do that at that venue, right? Waiting Room, maybe Smoke Signals, maybe, and then maybe a couple Noahs. I'm a little nervous because recently, when I've been doing covers, to switch from like originals to covers, mentally, maybe I just have to prepare more. I'm gonna stop giving excuses. I just have to prepare more. I forgot the lyrics last night and I giggled like in the mic. I was not impressed with myself, so I can't do that tomorrow. I gotta grow. When am I coming to Seattle? I would love to come to Seattle. So when am I coming to play? I don't know. Do you know of some places? If you know of some places like Seattle, even just still in Portland that I haven't explored, or in California, if you guys know of places that would do a good job of hosting an artist of my size, not like my actual size, like my audience size, let me know. I would love to come and play. And then Kenneth, okay, good. I did answer your question. And Jackie, let's see. It's hard to edit down all that content, no worries, and agreed. After learning how to do music with Rafa, I found how important it is to do music with like-minded people. Yeah. And that's been trial and error. So I'm not your 16-year-old musician, which there are tons of pros to that. You're like young buck, world at your fingertips, technology at your fingertips, older women telling you how to navigate Patreon. So, I mean, there are definitely things that I'm working against, not being the youngest in this market. But one of my deepest joys, thank you, Paul, for commenting on my earrings. One of my deepest joys is that some of those snafus, to make it, that's a kind way of saying it, or this the trouble that you encounter while trying to navigate all this and do it well and to do it right. I've learned some of them. Some of them by trial and error myself, others by listening and watching and researching others' experiences. But I've just found that if I want to do this for the long haul, and I want it to be good for me and for the people that I'm in a relationship with, if I want it, then I'm going to need to do it. I'm going to have to make some investments now to make sure that whatever I grow it into, that I believe in that, if that makes sense. So even though the temptations can be really great for any one of us, would I love to be further along in whatever that looks like? Yeah, sure, that would be great. Am I willing to sacrifice the people around me, my relationships, the growth I've had so far, and the other investments I've made into my community and family and all that? Am I willing to sacrifice that just to launch somewhere? No. And I have, I mean, in many of my conversations, some with folks within studios or those who've been on this road a lot longer than I and who have like hustled big time and made some big sacrifices, it's kind of a mixed bag, but for in their how they've navigated that. But I have been told before, like, you're gonna have to be willing to sacrifice a lot. And on one hand, I'm like, yeah, I can work hard. Like, I've been working hard, not just at this, but like in my academics and in the classroom, in the community. Like, I'm not afraid of hard work. However, the older I get, it is becoming clear what I'm willing to sacrifice. So it's not that I'm not willing to hustle, and sometimes I'm not great at it, and sometimes I am lazy, but there are deal breaker things. There are things where it's like, if it's gonna cost that, then it's either I just don't get to do it, or I'm gonna have to get really creative and I'm gonna have to do it somewhat a different way, because yeah, some costs are too high to pay, and then I guess in that case I don't want it that bad. I do want it, but I don't want whatever it would have to take to get that. So if that was confusing, feel free to message me and I'll clarify that, but I'm gonna stop so I don't wander too far. Thanks for answering my question. Totally checking out some of the artists you mentioned. Jonathan, good. Do that. Please do. You're gonna notice that it's like it's a really strange grouping of artists right there. That should be an interesting playlist for you. If you came to Tennessee, northern Mississippi, you have a couple of different places that would really dig you. Cool. Let's talk about a trip. I've actually never, sorry, I made it sound like that was shocking. I've never been there, so I would also need a tour, Caitlin, around the area, because everything about what you just said is foreign to me. Funeral, maybe it would be too much of a bummer, but you did. I don't know that one well enough. I actually was tinkering with that today because one of my Instagram buddies, she covered it, and it was really good. And I was like, I gotta learn the song too. Would you ever like to come to New Zealand? Yes. That's my answer to that. Yes. My cousin Ohule just went there, she and her wife, and it just looked amazing. I would love. And I feel like if I went there though, that Tyson and I know that we would have to bring my dad and my family, because they've been talking about that for a while. My dad would love to go to New Zealand. So yes, I would love to go. I'd also like to make it not just a music opportunity, but I think my whole family would want to go. So if anyone has a ton of cash that they want to donate to the Waia'us, that would be awesome. 100%, I can help you get a good venue, and I'll bring some peeps who could also host a living room show. Matt, we should continue this conversation. I think on my Instagram it has a link to my music email. Message me there at my email. We can figure that out. Hi, Paul. Thanks for liking my earrings. I like them too. I get some weird comments from students once in a while, but nothing that I can't shrug off. Tell me if you can come to Quebec, Canada. Francisca, I would love to. And Dante, I would also love to go to South America. If you haven't noticed, I would love to travel. Tyson and I would love to travel. We used to, when we first got married, one of our dates was we'd just go to Barnes & Noble and we'd share a coffee and we'd look through travel books and just kind of pretend. Because we were living really frugally. On purpose, but very frugally. Frugally? We had a frugal lifestyle. Yeah, on purpose, but to the point where we're like, when are we ever going to travel? So, Lord willing, we will be able to do some of these soon. And a lot of it is made possible if I can shift away from, or shift more into music and spend more time investing in that. And obviously in the writing and the playing, but also in the business side of it, which is a lot more time than I had thought. Let's see. Do you know what's a really good song as well? Old Church Choir. Paul, I will get on that. If you were here earlier, you heard this has been a crazy month. October is now going to be called... you can help me with nicknames, you guys. So if October is starting to feel like, in this new job that I have, I think it's going to be the worst month of the year, or like the busiest, where it just feels like there's not really a moment even to catch your breath. I've been calling it the Beast, but I feel like there's a more clever name you could give it, like a play off October. If you think of one, let me know. But yes, I need to get to that song, Paul. And I thank you for all the reminders. You might just need to keep reminding me till I post it. No, I still am teaching, but in order to shift to 3/4 time, I had to move out of full-time like social studies and into this leadership position, student leadership, like student government, and a big chunk of that is activity coordination. So yeah, that kind of stuff. I have to burp. Kenneth, I'm sending you a pick guard off my Strat. Can you sign it and send it back to me? If you're joking, yeah. And if you're not joking, yeah. I feel silly because I don't feel like my signature autograph is worth much, but especially for my Patreon Ohana, of course. I might even, I was thinking I could put like some sort of like sticker on it, but I don't have any cool stickers. I'll just sign it because I feel like a sticker could actually be like damage it in a no good way. Or you should save it for when you get John Mayer to sign it. A significantly better known artist, right? I mean, I guess some people sometimes get us mixed up. Isabeau, John Mayer, I mean, their skill level is pretty comparable. Not at all. Just in case you just tuned in just at that point, I was being completely sarcastic. Carstastic? I was being sarcastic. That's not true. I don't believe that. Obviously, it's not true. And yes, I don't believe that is what I meant to say. October is Stresstober. Yes, Caitlin, that is perfect. Hi, Harmony. Thank you for listening. I don't know if you've been a part of this. I just realized I should say this again. When this live stream just turns into a regular video on my channel, it's crazy long because I spent the first 25 minutes talking about my Patreon journey, and then I've spent the remainder of this time responding to comments and answering questions, and I'll probably do that for another, I don't know, I'm gonna say 5, which we know will mean 10, or just when you guys stop asking questions. Caitlin has a question. Go for it, Caitlin. Paul, when's your birthday? Did I miss it? I'm sorry if I missed it. Or did I wish you happy birthday? Now I look like a complete punk because I'm asking you if I wished you a happy birthday. It'll be worth something someday, and I'll brag I got it way back in the day. You already signed yours. Oh, you're like, I already got John Mayer's. Now I can move on to the lesser artists. How's my sleeve coming along? Pretty good. I told my students this year, because it's like, how many years of teaching? Well, my ASB officers and leadership, at the end of the year, they get to help me decide on a tattoo. But I did tell them I need to obviously approve it. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna tattoo a picture of a fart on my arm. Like, I'm not dumb. I'm sure they think I'm gonna do anything. But no, I said that they could contribute to the idea, because I really do want it to be something where I can look at it and remember them in this like 10 years of teaching total, which feels like forever. But I'm not gonna tattoo something down like a fart or something on my arm, which I'm not really sure what that would look like. Maybe it'll look pretty cool. Happy belated birthday, Paul. I'm sorry if I missed it, and did I miss? And I don't know if I messaged you. Okay, so the job thing means I have the money things, and I want to get a tattoo, and I also want to be a bow tattoo, so I need your help with that. What do you mean a bow tattoo? Like one on my face? If that is the case, I would recommend... Oh, this looks so weird. I would recommend against that. Portraits... Unless you... you get what you pay for. So if you get a portrait, I would recommend finding a very experienced artist in portraiture, in tattoos, and then be willing to pay a chunk. Because it's a really fine line. Like, if you get the eyes wrong, or if the teeth, then it just looks like a ghost, like a ghoul. Ugh. So yeah, make sure your artist is a good one if it's portrait. I'm guessing you weren't gonna get a portrait and you just meant like you want to talk to me about your ideas. What are your ideas? I have to scroll, look at the comments. I'll get a bow tattoo. Kenneth, like again, if one of you gets a portrait, you should get a portrait of my face on one of your faces, like perfectly on your face. It'd be like that movie Face Off, you know, when they exchange faces. No? What was his name? Not Sean Connery. Ooh, not Frank Sinatra. Nicolas Cage. Man, where's that dude? And John Travolta. I said his name really slow to make sure I wasn't just saying Frank Sinatra again. You guys know what movie I'm talking about? My dad was really digging it, because there's a part where they exchange faces, and the only way that the real dad is able to communicate with his kid that it's him is they have some sort of like, not like hand shake or anything. I don't know, he's just able to assure his kid that it's him, even though he doesn't have the right face. And my dad would always pause it. He'd be like, this is what I'm gonna do if this ever happens to us. And he has a certain way that he like touches our face. And then we know it's dad. It's not Nicolas Cage. Because this could happen in real life. Oh, I love my dad. If any of you know Waia'u, you know that most movies end up being paused 10 minutes in. He goes, you see what they did wrong here? You see what they did wrong here? Like, I made the mistake of watching Taken with my dad. Taken. And he'd stop it and be like, do you see the mistake the girl made? I'm like, yes, the girl is an idiot. She got in the car with like these stranger dudes in another country. Dad, I won't do that. But I digress. I'll get back on track. Okay, by the way, there's a chance that this is about to die. My phone, meaning, not me. That was kind of heavy. I need to find a way to plug in my phone. So, feel free to ask questions while I figure out how to do this. I would move my phone, but then you would see in my closet. And I didn't organize my closet to pretend like I had my stuff together. By stuff, I meant another word. Okay. Oh, I almost got it. If I could just suspend this power strip. If a firefighter walked into this room right now, I would get a lot of trouble. No, don't fall. I'm gonna balance it on a tripod. Why did I think that would work? Oh, because it is. What? No. This is very precarious. This is such a bad idea. Oh, lights on. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. I think I'm just gonna end this. I can't find a way to plug in my phone. So, speed round. Bo broke the world. I know the lights went off. I was just trying to spook you guys because it's October. It's spooky season. Boo. Thank you guys for joining me on this. I'm going to try to do this more regularly. And the goal is to have, I'm going to say the first 10 to 20 minutes being a way to share with you guys things that I'm finding out about the process, so that some of you who are on the same road or path or just looking for some music hacks that I found so far, that you could just, you know, not have to go through all the trouble yourself and just take what I've learned so far and launch from there. So the goal is to have like the first 10 to 20 minutes be something like that, and then I could just do Q&A and chat with you guys from there. I know I've probably missed some of your questions, so if I missed it, if I didn't answer it and you're really dying for an answer, come find me on social media and you can ask me those questions there and continue the conversation there. And then if you're on Patreon, not October, November, we're going to be doing an entire, so we're doing it every other month, an entire group patron chat. So if you are a part of Patreon already, or you're planning, that word sounded weird, already, or you're planning to become a patron, every other month we do a live Google chat where we just catch up and I talk about some of this stuff here, or ask or answer more personal questions. I'm having a hard time talking at the end of this right now. But to do that, I need you to follow me on Google Plus, and then I need to know what your handle is so that I can find you and add you to the group message. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for 77 minutes. That's a long time. And yeah. Anything else? Ooh, I want to show you. So like Kenneth and Jonathan and Mama Holbrook and Robert and Heidi and John, when you become a patron, whether it's like $1 a video or $20 a video or whatever the other amounts are, there's other patron perks or incentives, but everyone gets a shirt. So if you do become one, or if you are a patron and for some reason you haven't gotten your shirt, or you haven't put your mailing address into your like bio account, please do so I can send you a shirt. That's me. It's kind of weird. I thought I'd wear it during this, but that was just odd to have like my face on my chest. That felt a bit presumptuous, a little arrogant. So yeah, that's me. One of my former students designed this, and a local screen printer, shirt nerdery, they put it together. So yeah, if you become one, let me know, and then I will send this to you. So everyone gets one. Well, as long as I have them. I only give them to patrons. So just to you guys. But yeah, come find me there. Join me for the patron chat, patrons, in November. I'll post more about it on Patreon. And I think that's it for now. My phone's gonna die. I appreciate you guys. Let me know if you have any more questions, and if I can answer them, I will. And if I can't, I'll help you find the answer to it, maybe. Cool. Okay. Bye, you guys. I'm gonna go. Okay, bye.